I know you all have been dying, and I repeat, dying to know what my favorite PlayStation 1 game is of all time. Except for the ones of you who spoiled it for everyone else. God, I guess that's kind of my fault, though. I've made it a bit obvious throughout numerous interviews and videos what my favorite game is of all time. But without further ado, here you go. Final Fantasy IX. I love you so. I love you so much. I could spend this entire video telling you why Final Fantasy IX is such a great game and why I love it so much, but I think you can find that information anywhere on the internet. There's a lot of people out there who feel the same way I do. So instead, I think I'll focus on how Final Fantasy IX impacted my life and the weird, crazy adventures it brought me into doing. Yeah, just get ready. I learned about Final Fantasy IX through my grandma. She got me a copy for my birthday. Yeah, it was for my birthday, and she got me the guide and all that jazz. And it ultimately became like one of my favorite games, not just on the PlayStation, but of all time. Like, it just connected with me, and I was a teenager at the time, so I was trying to figure out my own kind of like destiny, if you will, and following the adventures of Zidane and Dagger and Vivi and Freya and all of these characters who were also on their own personal journey, and I was really able to relate with that. It's kind of funny, when I first started Final Fantasy IX, Zidane's little character box came up, and it's like, name this character! And I thought he was a girl, so I named him Brittney, until I looked through the guide a little further ahead to see what I'd be coming up against, and it was all like, Zidane's move is blah blah blah, he does blah blah blah, and I was like, oh, I should probably change that. But, Final Fantasy IX was unlike a game I had ever played. It was the first game that really related to my sense of humor. It was really sarcastic, kind of crude, kind of like naughty in a sense, but it wasn't over the top. In fact, I loved the game so much, I found the humor so freaking hilarious that I played through on my second or third time, and I had a notepad, and I wrote down every single funny moment that ever happened. So I would play, and then I would have a pen and a paper by my side, and then Queena would say this light make me feel like I become pot roast, which is still one of my favorite lines of all time, so I would scribble it down. I also was so obsessed at the time that this was when VCRs were a thing, kids. VCRs. And I would put a blank tape in the VCR, and at that time we played on channel 3 as well. And I would record channel 3, and thus I would be recording my Final Fantasy IX progress, and I would then watch it after I was done playing, and it was like a Final Fantasy IX movie. God, I just had so... God, look! Yay, Zidane! I need to clean my room. And this is where it gets weird, kids. So, I ultimately wrote a 450-page fanfic that featured Zidane, Trunks from Dragon Ball Z, Marcus from Final Fantasy IX, Dagger, Kuja, other Dragon Ball Z characters. It got really weird really fast, but it was something I did for, God, 3 or 4 years, and I wrote it all out script style, so it'd be Zidane, says this, actions do this, and this isn't the weird part. The weird part is I ended up giving these characters a really strange backstory, oh God, am I really gonna admit this? So Zidane and Trunks grew up together in South Central LA, and they were part of the Crips, I think is what. Oh God, thinking about it now is so cringeworthy. But anyway, so my fanfic followed all these characters throughout, their time in gangs, and then making a new life somewhere in Washington, and meeting girls. I may or may not have been one of them. One of these days I'll release it. I don't even know where it is. I think it's on an old computer, but yeah. in creating these crazy backstories for Zidane and Trunks as these like ruthless gang members from South Central LA, I unknowingly sparked like a huge interest in myself when it came to gangs and gang culture. Before I knew it, I was buying everything related to gangs, books, I was renting movies because at that time we rented movies, buying documentaries, going online, learning gang signs. But yeah, like that's just another weird venture and a weird road this Final Fantasy IX took me down. Like video game, obsession with characters, really long weird fanfic, obsession with gangs. And to this day, I'm still pretty interested in them. So it's kind of weird how that works. But then again, I'm weird, so nothing's out of reach. What? If that's not weird enough for you, I have more. Don't worry. What else would you expect from me? So, Oregon Trail, as I'm sure a game many of you are familiar with. So my friend and I would play it, and she was just as obsessed as I was. And in fact, she would come over, and we would read. The first thing we would do, we would read that fanfic. We would read the new pages I added. I'd be like, hey, guess what? I've added 20 more pages to the fanfic, and we got all excited, and that's what we would do. Anyway, so after we would get done reading that, we would go play Oregon Trail, and we would name all the characters. We would base all the characters off of the characters in the fanfic. So Zidane, Trunks, maybe I would be thrown in there, maybe she would be thrown in there, because she too was a character. Steiner, just for shits. And so what we would do is we'd play the game, and then an event would happen. Someone would like break their leg or some shit. And then we would go down to the text box of the game, and we would like role play in there. We would like write line after line after line of story and dialogue, and we would do that for hours and hours and more hours. We also wrote story bloopers. We would do like surveys from the point of view of like these characters that were, like I said, based off Final Fantasy IX, but clearly it gave them weird backstories and blah, blah, blah. Fuck you, son. Like, fuck you. You know, you're so freaking inconsistent. Why, you flaming orb? I can think of one more story that is like a staple when I think of Final Fantasy IX. So there's a group of girls and there's about 3 or 4 of us, and we all love Final Fantasy IX, and we all thought Zidane was like the shit, and he was like this hot, studly character, which is weird because he's only 16, but at the time we were only like 13 or 14, so it's okay. And it's also weird because I almost named him Brittney because I thought he was a girl. So we're totally obsessed. We're a group of like 3 or 4 girls, you know, 13, 14, hormones going every which way, and there's this video game character, and we were attracted to him immensely and his personality. And we were really, really butthurt because we had heard that Final Fantasy X was going to be fully voice acted. And we felt like Final Fantasy IX got the shaft. Like, you know, we were just one game away from having Zidane, you know, have a voice. And we always wanted to know. We wondered what he would sound like. You know, would he have like a deep voice? Would he be more like the feminine side? You know, we were really curious. So, you know, that plagued us for several months. But one fateful night, I was replaying Final Fantasy IX for the umpteenth time, and I came across a cutscene that I had seen many times before. But this time, I had my volume apparently way jacked up, because this cutscene consists of Zidane running for his life, and at the end, he stops and he turns around and he reflects on this epic chase that he just did. In any case, he's breathing really heavy, and I was listening, and I was like, holy shit. And I was listening. I'm like, is that the sound of Zidane breathing? Oh my god, it is. And so I called up my friends immediately. I'm like, Zidane breathes. Oh my god, he breathes. He really breathes. You can kind of hear him breathing. Oh my god. And it was a huge deal because we thought maybe we could like deduct from that what his voice would have sounded like. So the next weekend, we got all of us together and we replayed through, because I didn't have my memory card, so we had to replay through the entire game until we got to that point. And then we listened to him breathe, and we all squealed like a bunch of horny teenagers. You're totally judging me right now, aren't you? Don't judge me. And of course, I went on a collector's spree thing where I tried to buy everything I could related to Final Fantasy IX. Unfortunately, what I found is that there wasn't a lot of like paraphernalia made for Final Fantasy IX. I mean, I'm sure they have the action figure that you see behind me. And that cool VV pixelated head I found at a retro gaming expo. If I move my head this way, wait, God, that top shelf is Final Fantasy IX. Then I have another Zidane up there. But other than that, I couldn't find a lot of other stuff. So it's hard for me to hoard for that game. I could do Dragon Age or Mass Effect or Resident Evil or any of that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you are itching for like a good quality Final Fantasy title that really feels like the last kind of authentic Final Fantasy, I'm not trying to say that like Final Fantasy X and Beyond wasn't authentic, but you know, that old PlayStation 1 kind of feel, you guys know what I'm talking about. Final Fantasy IX is such an amazing, amazing game, and some of the best characters I've ever met in any game, like hands down. And the journey is fun, the storytelling is fun, it's emotional, it's funny, it's deep, it'll connect with you. One of these characters you'll be able to resonate with, and it's just such a phenomenal game. I mean, it's one of those games that the opening credits pop up, or the opening title screen starts, and the music starts playing, and then I hear like the opening like seconds of the intro song, and I just like go back to 7th grade, and I get all emotional, and it's ramble. Point being, you should really give it a shot. This is me trying to avoid the sun. Sup, fellas and ladies. Let me know if you have played Final Fantasy IX and what you thought about it, and let me know of any crazy weird stories you may have as well, because it would be so freaking cool to like talk about that stuff with other fellow Final Fantasy IX lovers. So please let me know. I should probably wrap this up before I ramble any longer. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was fun for you to hear and see all of my weirdness. I mean, I think you knew I was weird before, but now you're probably pretty fucking sure of it. So, that's alright. I'll just throw my dignity and pride on the line for you, which I did. So there's that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will do another one of these soon for a different platform soon. Bye!